How to Prevent Obesity and Diabetes, a Case Study Part 2. Welcome to Be Fab, Be You Made Simple, your daily dose of inspiration designed to help you reinvent yourself by optimizing your body and mind. I am Maria Horstman, a health editor and coach, a fitness trainer, a speaker, and an entrepreneur, founder of BeFabBeYou.com. Our episodes are short and will bring you valuable content and practical nuggets for optimal health and fitness that you can implement ASAP. Let's get you to feel fabulous every day. Are you ready? Check out the show notes to 1. Schedule a free call with me to discuss a plan to take your health to the next level. 2. Submit a question to be featured in our Ask Me Anything episodes on Sundays. Connect with me on social media and much more. Hit the subscribe button, and if you like what you hear, share with your friends and leave it a rating. How to Prevent Obesity and Diabetes, a Case Study Part 2. In episode 6, I shared Mary's questions of how to prevent obesity and diabetes. I also share insights into her lifestyle choices, or what I call the pillars of health. In today's episode, though, I will focus on sharing definitions about obesity and diabetes to set the stage for the upcoming episodes of this series, as I will continue to dive into Mary's health and lifestyle choices and offer steps to help to prevent obesity and diabetes like she wants. So just a heads up too, today's episode is not to raise any fear. Instead, it is to increase your knowledge and awareness so you can set your SMART goals and assess the help that you need to achieve better health. Just also a reminder that the transcript of the episodes will have the sources and citations, and this episode is loaded with them. So check out the transcript at befabbu.com/podcast. And you also have this link on the show notes. So since our conversation is about implementing preventive ways to becoming obese and diabetic, especially about type 2, which is what we're discussing here, it is important for us to know the basics of each of this disease. So I'll share some information for you over here, and you can continue the research, or you're welcome to send me any questions that you have. So last episode, I touched upon the A1C as being used as the most common biomarker test for prediabetes and diabetes. And, you know, I mentioned this in the past, and I will continue to mention this in the future because I want you to take this to heart. Diabetes type 2 is driven mostly by lifestyle choices and occurs when the blood sugar or blood glucose is abnormally high. And our bodies digest foods we eat and break these foods into glucose. Our pancreas, very important organ over here we have, produces the insulin. And one of insulin's main jobs is to help take this glucose, to put into the glucose into our cells. So once the glucose is inside the cells, our cells basically convert the glucose into energy. Hello, we want some energy, don't we? And this energy is to be used right away or to store it as for later use. Hint, hint, hint. Hello. Digestion and energy storage are important concepts here. Just pay attention going forward. We're going to talk more about it, but these are important concepts that I want you to be aware. And we'll talk about it in different shows. So let's also define this obesity and what is the difference between being overweight and obese, and what are some of the key indicators for obesity. In a nutshell, overweight and obesity are defined as abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that prevents, us from staying healthy, really. And as a common cause of obesity, or a few of the common causes, I would like to say, are overeating, physical inactivity, malnutrition, especially in a diet high in simple carbs and sugar, frequency of eating, and medications, just to mention a few. So, what are some of the ways that we can measure body fat? And, each method, I will say, that I will mention here, they have the pros and the cons, and I will not be discussing the pros and the cons over here, but I will share 3 very important ways. Some are very common to measure fat. So one is mostly known as the BMI, which stands for body mass index. And this is the most basic and common method used to measure obesity. It's the ratio of, your weight to height. And you don't need a doctor or a fitness trainer to tell you what your BMI is, because, you know what your height is, or you can measure and you can step on a scale. And in the show notes, I share a link to the to a BMI table and a calculator that you can use. And, there are many cons of using this method, but it's a good starting point. And also in the last episode, you will recall that Mary mentioned about BMI, and she says that all her aunts are obese based on their BMI. So what exactly did she mean with that? So a normal BMI and a normal weight is a BMI between 18.5 and 24.9. Then we have the overweight category, which is a BMI between 25 and 29.9. And obesity is a BMI of 30 and higher. So those are a few numbers to know. And you definitely want to stay, below 25 as much as possible, right? Like I said, there's cons about this measurement, but is a good starting point. Then one measurement that is also easy to get done and is very predicative of health is a waist to hip ratio. So this method basically assesses someone's health risk based on where a person carried the weight. Higher the weight in the waist, higher the chances of greater amount of visceral fat surrounding our vital organs. And you and I do not want that number to be high. So we want to contain and want to keep our visceral fat, as low as possible. So you can measure your waist, you can measure your hip, and you divide the waist by hip, and you have your ratio. The waist to hip ratio varies between men and women, obviously because the body types that we have, they're different, right? And females are at risk when the ratio is greater than 0.86. And males are at risk when the ratio is greater than 0.95. So again, you can measure this circumferences and do the math over here very easily. The third method I want to talk about is the DEXA scan, which stands for dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. You cannot even, say this word very clearly. So it's a very accurate way, actually, to measure body fat. I love it. And this method uses basically 2 level X-ray beams to develop estimates of fat free mass, fat mass, lean mass, and actually bone mineral density, which this is important for us to understand as well, especially women of age 35 and older. I'll talk more about the using DEXA scan and my own results in future episodes because it's really awesome stuff. During our conversation with Mary, she mentioned that her aunts, started to gain weight in their mid to late 40s. And now they're in their 70s and they have diabetes. So you might be asking, is there a correlation between obesity and type 2 diabetes? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Unfortunately, in the US, roughly about 112,000 deaths per year are directly correlated to obesity. And these deaths are in people with BMI over 30. So you got to understand where you're at, right? I always say we got to understand where we're at so we can take measures. So folks with a BMI over 40 have a reduced life expectancy as well. So obesity increases the risk for many chronic diseases, and including, there you go, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, stroke, heart attack, cancer, especially colon cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, other, chronic diseases that come with diabetes are gout, sleep apnea. When we start messing with sleep, folks, things go downhill quickly to osteoarthritis and insulin resistance, which is one of my favorite topics to educate and help my clients with and help them improve this symptom because it can be reversed, and meaning that it can increase insulin sensitivity in your cells. Insulin resistance is really a precursor to diabetes. And obviously, before diabetes, there is prediabetes. A lot of folks don't even understand that they have prediabetes. And before you know, they go to the doctor, especially those who don't go often to the doctor. And here we go, you're diagnosed with diabetes. But here's the thing. The insulin resistance starts to creep up way before this diagnosis. And insulin resistance and obesity are interconnected in many, many, many ways. And here is the thing, right? You can be insulin resistant without being overweight and obese, which was my case for many years. And for many years, I had no idea. And I'll share more about that in future episodes as well. So my mission is to help men and women to undo all these harms, just like I accomplished for myself. So that's part of the reason that I have this podcast, so I can share my knowledge with you and give you some inspiration to take those measures to prevent this or to undo these harms. So, I think this is a good actually stopping point for part 2 of this mini-series. Next episode, I'll dive into Mary's lifestyle choices and their relationships with the risks of increasing obesity and diabetes. And of course, I'll share yummy nuggets of practical recommendations to prevent these diseases. In the meantime, if you feel uneasy about where you stand right now regarding your health and wellness, and you want to put a plan together, definitely book a complimentary call with me. You can reach me at bfabbu.com, and you have my contact information and the link to schedule a call in the show notes. So, stop whatever you're not doing, and it's time to start doing something that will move you forward. It's my recommendation. Any minute is the right minute to get started. And also, before you go, okay, you are going to grab that pen and paper. And, by now, I would hope that you're grabbing your wellness notepad for this specific podcast, right? Because every episode, I will give you some to-dos. And if you do the work, folks, you will get results. So for your homework for today, I like call homework, assignment, whatever you want to call it. Here are a few things to do. One is I want you to use that BMI calculator to calculate your BMI if you don't know what it is. I also would like you to grab a tape measure and figure out your waist to hip ratio. Very important. Both are really good metrics for you to do, and they cost you nothing. Zero. What it costs you is a few minutes of your time. And lastly, I want you to continue to expand on the 8 lifestyle areas I discussed last episode. Continue to jot down where you're at in those episodes because it's going to become really helpful as I continue the discussions here with you. So you're welcome to submit your questions to me, and I'll answer them on the show. You can submit them at bfabbu.com/podcast question. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the BFABU Made Simple podcast. Can you do me a favor? If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and leave it a rating. It helps the podcast, and I really appreciate it. If you're wondering where to start, head over to my website, linked in the show notes, to sign up to receive encouragement, tips, and strategies to maximize results. While you're there, download a free health guide to get you started today. If you're looking for a coach and trainer to help you optimize your weight, body, and health, get on my calendar. Let's discuss your goals, establish a custom plan, implement it, and celebrate your results. Together, we can do this. Find the link to schedule a free energy audit strategy session also in the show notes. Connect with me on social media. I would love for you to let me know that you're listening to the show. Also, see the show notes for the links. In addition to a qualified healthcare practitioner, it's important that you have someone in your corner who is in for you and will help you to plan and stay on track implementing your goals. Are you ready? Let's rock and roll this boat. I will see you on the next episode of BFABU Made Simple. Just a reminder that this podcast is for educational purposes only. This podcast is not a substitute for health care by a doctor or other qualified medical professionals. This podcast is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services.